Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel. I have a fun one for you guys today. We're going to be doing a kind of casual date night get ready with me. Actually, this is a repeat of a date night look that I did last night. I was intending to film this for my actual date night. We went out and saw a production of Les Mis last night, which was, oh my gosh, you guys, it was so good. I wanted to film that for you guys. I ran out of time, but I really loved the makeup look that I created. I used the Very Scary Pat McGrath palette, and I loved how that look turned out. So we're gonna recreate that look today. I have my same shirt that I wore last night on. We'll also be using some other products that I am really loving right now. So it should be a lot of fun. Hope you guys are excited. Before we jump in, I want to welcome any new visitors to my channel. Welcome. I hope that you enjoy this video. If you do, please be sure that you are subscribed before you leave. And I'd really appreciate a thumbs up if you enjoy this one. With that out of the way, let's get to it. Alright, so we're going to jump right in with a little bit of primer. So I used this primer the other day. This is the Touch in Sol No Problem Primer, but this is the Priming Essence version. Honestly, I'm not even, this feels a lot like just kind of a hyaluronic acid sort of gel, but it is pretty hydrating though. There's something more to it than just a hyaluronic acid, but I do really love how this feels on my skin. It almost gives it like a, I hate to say the word tacky because that doesn't sound like something I would really want from a primer, but it gives it this like bouncy kind of tacky feeling that I really like and I think goes well underneath foundation. For foundation, I picked two of my very favorites, the Mise en Snail Repair BB Cream, and I mixed it with a little bit of my L'Oreal Infallible Fresh Wear. So I'm going to take about a pea-sized amount of the Snail Repair BB Cream and about a half a pump of the L'Oreal on the back of my hand. Oh, and that reminds me, I wanted to try out a set of brushes that I got in the mail recently. These are from Royal & Lang. They sent me their Omnia set of brushes. I've used a couple of these. I've used a couple of the face brushes and a handful of the eye brushes, so I thought we would use them today. I will look up pricing on these for you guys and insert it right here along with a close-up of the brushes. So I want to start applying this foundation using the foundation brush that comes in the set. I don't usually use these type of brushes, but I think just for getting the foundation on my skin, it works fine. And then I'm going to take a sponge and tap the rest of that into my skin. So not really a necessary step. I usually just use my finger, but I have the brush in the set, so I thought we would use it. I would love to know how many of you guys use these paddle-shaped brushes for your complete foundation application. I know they are kind of the traditional foundation brush, but I don't really see a lot of people using this brush or this style of a brush for foundation applications. Usually I see brushes used for foundations look kind of more along the lines of like something like this, a little bit more dense. That's usually what I go for if I'm blending a foundation out with a brush. But I did mention in the video where I tried out the Snail Repair BB Cream that using a sponge, and this is not just true with this foundation, but any foundation, does soak up more product. I don't get quite as intense coverage when I blend it out with a sponge, but I do love the finish of it. Before I move on to concealer, I want to add just a little bit of eye primer to my eyes. I'm going to take the Alter Ego eye primer. This is the one I used the other night and it held up really well. Although I will say this, you guys, I didn't cry in Les Mis. I've seen the movies before. I'm very familiar with the music. I love the music to Les Mis and I have for a long time, but this was the first actual live performance of Les Mis I had ever watched, and I assumed that I would cry and I didn't, and I was kind of disappointed when I left that I didn't cry. Not disappointed in the production, it was incredible, but I don't know, I thought I would be more emotional than I was. And I can't remember why I even brought that up. Maybe because I was talking about how my makeup held up, but it really wasn't put to much of a test that night, even though I expected that it would be. I even wore my water resistant mascara because I anticipated that I'd be a little emotional. But by the way, I'm just taking my Kosas concealer now to cover a few spots and areas I have on my face. Before I blend that out, I'm going to take just a little bit of the Milani Conceal and Perfect. This one's in the shade 115. It's a little bit light for me, but I like adding just a little bit of this to my eyelids since that eye primer is pretty much clear or is sheer. And then I'm going to take my sponge, I'm going to blend out the darker concealer first, and then I'll blend out my eyelids last. So let me know down below how many of you have seen Les Mis, maybe on Broadway. It's come to Utah a few times, so I saw it at the Hill Center Theater, which I've been to several times. I saw Newsies there and I saw Music Man there. It is pretty incredible. For those of you that are Utah natives or have passed through here and happened to stop at the new Hill Center Theater, it is quite the venue. Now that's coming from someone that the only other live production I've ever really seen is like a high school play. I've never been to Broadway before. So know that that's what I'm comparing it to, but it's so amazing. So you kind of feel like you're on stage with the cast because everybody's so like close together and they're kind of right there in your face. It's incredible. Okay, so there is the foundation. Oh, that's right. I did my eyes first the other night. That's okay. I think that we can kind of compensate for some of the glitter fallout that I anticipate we might get. I'll just work around it. So we're going to jump right into the eyes using the Pat McGrath palette. So I started off, mostly this look, I used these bronzes. I used some of this green in the outer corner, and then I darkened up a little bit with this and then used this shade right here, which is so beautiful. And I'm assuming when people talk about her special shades, they're probably talking about this one, I would assume, or maybe this formula. If not, they should be, because it is exceptional. However, I do have an alternative for it that we'll get to in just a minute. But let's jump into the eye look. So I'm going to start off with the light tan in here. By the way, I did want to mention to you guys as I'm blending that I looked up this palette this morning. It is on sale on the Pat McGrath website, so I will link it for you guys down below. It's on sale for $94. I mean, I hate to even recommend this palette to anyone because I just think that is such a ridiculous amount of money to spend on an eyeshadow palette. I'm kind of 50% ashamed that I bought this, even at the discounted price that I found it for. Anyways, it is on sale for $94 currently. Also, on the actual link for the product, there's a little coupon that they list for an additional 10% off. So I imagine you can get, I mean, I think it's 25% off right now. So you can get it for 35% off, which I think I got mine for 30% off. So that's, I mean, it's still crazy expensive. It's still going to be 80 bucks. But if you have $80 just sitting around, you've been dying to try out a Pat McGrath palette, I do think it is good. I am enjoying it more as I've used it a few times. I just have to cringe a little bit inside every time I open this thing up, knowing what I spent on it. So I'm just taking one more tiny dip just on the very tip of my brush, just to kind of deepen up. Right there, kind of at and above the crease. Total fail. I realized I was going to use the Royal & Lang brush. Darn it. Out of habit, I use my Morphe number 16 brush, so we're going to go back into this one, the Royal & Lang. This is the crease brush. I've used this a couple of times. I do really enjoy it. It's a really nice crease brush. It actually reminds me a lot, the size of it, of the Rephr number 16. It's very similar in shape, but this one has just a tiny bit more of a point on the tip. Also, these are synthetic, I believe, and the Rephr brushes are not. But very nice and soft. Alright, now I'm going to take this brush right here. This is actually the lip brush that came with the set, but I'm going to use it to pack some shadow on this outer part of my lid. We're going to go into this green right here. It has a little bit of shimmer in it. It is a shimmer. I'd say it's more of a satiny shimmer. It's not super sparkly or reflective or glittery. But we're going to tap that on this outer third of the lid. Could also use a finger. I'm pretty sure I used a finger when I did this look last night. Okay, very pretty. I'm going to take my finger on that front edge right there and just kind of smudge that out very lightly. Now let's go to, actually I want to work a little bit more on this outer corner right here. So I'm going to take this brush right here. This is the Detail brush. It's just a small, dense, smudgy brush. And I'm going to dip that into the dark kind of charcoal right here. And we are going to add a little bit of that mostly to the lash line. And I'm just going to feather a tiny bit of that just upwards into this outer corner right there. Look how nice and rich and smoky that is. So pretty. So now I want to add just a little bit. Actually, we're going to take that same brush. I'm going to wipe it off really well. And I'm going to use that to smudge a little bit of that light brown on my lower lash line. And then we'll go back into that dark, actually I think I'm going to take the dark green down here, just like at the outer corner, to shape out that outer corner. I just don't want it to be too dark. I mean, it's already pretty dark, but I don't want the lower lash line to be too dark. So we're going to use the green instead of the charcoal. And then on that edge right there, I'm just wiping off that blending brush, and I'm just going to kind of run that along the edge. Alright, now I'm going to go back to the smudge brush, and we're going to dip into the green again. Just on the very tip of that brush, we're going to add a tiny bit of that. Kind of start at the corner and then run it just under the outermost edge of my lower lash line. This is mostly just to shape that outer V and kind of tie it down to the lower lash line a little bit. Now back to the sponge that I used for my foundation and concealer. I'm just going to run this lightly, not too close to where the shadow is, kind of more below it, just in case any of that shadow moved down a little bit too far. This will help just clean up that area without it being too harsh. If you go really close to where your shadow is, if you like that harsh line, you could go really close and just kind of, you actually put more concealer on there and just kind of draw it like that. But I don't like that look very much on me. It's a little bit too stark, so I go a little bit lower without using more product, mostly just to pull the excess off right there. Pretty sure I've explained that to you guys before. Sorry to be redundant. All right, let's move into what I think is one of the most beautiful shades inside here that I've used, at least so far. It is this corner shade right here. This is such a beautiful, sparkly, very refined, glittery, kind of just beautiful shimmer for the lid. That was the worst description ever. Let's just use it and I'll let you guys judge for yourselves. So I'm just going to take that on my finger, but because I did my eyes first, I'm going to add this little cotton bud down below because you will get some fallout with this shade. I'm just going to start right here on the inner corner. Look at that. You guys see how insane that is? And just tap it. This is like a ivory silver, like a warm silver. It's so pretty. And I think it would go with anything. I mean, this is one of those inner corner, inner lid shades that it really is going to go with just about anything. It's not too warm, but it's also not too cool, so you could do it with a very warm eye or a very cool toned eye. It is so sparkly and beautiful though. Isn't that lovely? But I will mention this, not necessarily the shade of it, but kind of just the effect of this does remind me a bit of the effect of the ColourPop Super Shock shadow in the shade Ladybird. So I wanted to swatch these side by side for you guys. So let's go ahead and swatch Ladybird first. I think you have to maybe build Ladybird up a little bit more. It is a little bit more creamy. This is a drier formula. This is not a creamy formula per se. It's hard to explain the formula of this. It's also not super dry. And it's not like chalky or anything. And then here's the Pat McGrath down below. There is a little bit more sparkle to the Pat McGrath. You can actually feel kind of the grittiness of the sparkle underneath, but applied to the eyes, I think they give a very, very similar effect. So if you don't have the Pat McGrath palette and you have no intentions of spending $80, $90, $125 on an eyeshadow palette, which I don't blame you, I would recommend something like this. This is very, very close and gives a very similar effect. All right, now to the other side, same thing. Honestly, that's just one swipe, like I just rubbed my finger lightly on there one time, and that's really all you need. It is plenty reflective with just one swipe of it. Isn't that so pretty? I just think that's such a pretty eye look. So glitzy and fancy without being chunky glitter. Like if you see it in person, it's sparkly and glittery, but it's not like craft glitter particles. You guys know how I feel about those sometimes. So that is it for the eyes. Oh, I forgot I did add some gel liner. So I went in with my Tony Moly gel liner. So let's go ahead and do that now. I'm actually going to do this off camera. I'm just going to add a little bit of a wing black liner to just the top, a little bit of liner to my outer third of my waterline, just to really darken up that outer corner. Then I'm going to take a nice healthy coat of my Thrive Cosmetics mascara, and then I'll be back with you guys and we'll finish off with the cheeks and the lips and the brows. Alright guys, eyes are finished. Let's move on to the brows. So when I did my brows the other night, I did use very bravely the brow pen, the Tattoo 7-Day brow pen that I got in that Yes Style video that I did a week or two ago. My brows actually turned out really, really great, but this is one of those things that it's kind of like when you bake something for the first or second time and it turns out amazing, and then you try and recreate the recipe and it never turns out quite as good the second time. That's what I'm afraid is going to happen today, but we're going to try it anyways. I am by no means an expert yet, but we're going to give it a go. So I first want to start off by just brushing. I actually already put a little bit of my e.l.f. brow wax in. I'm just going to brush my brows upright. And then I'm gonna take, let me get a little mirror here. Hopefully I can do this on camera. Like that's what's really gonna get me into trouble, because I literally had my face pressed up against my much larger mirror that sits here in front of me. So I'm just gonna do my best. So I just went in and kind of added, oh boy, this is way harder. I can't do this up close. Okay, forgive me guys. I'm gonna put my mirror right here. Okay, so I just took, hopefully you guys can kind of see what I'm doing. This is a pretty pigmented pen, so I tried to just really lightly draw a couple of brow hairs starting. Okay, no more talking. Talking is messing me up. I'm just gonna go for it and you guys can watch and I'd say watch and learn, but watch and be entertained. That's very likely what will happen. Okay, so far it looks pretty good. If you guys have tried a pen, I know a couple of people make these pens. I'm pretty sure that Urban Decay makes something similar to this. The Glossier has a, I can't remember what theirs is called, but they have a pen. Let me know if you have tried one that is light enough in the color, because I feel like this one is still just a little dark for my brow hairs. It would be helpful if I didn't have to be quite so light-handed when I used this. There we have the brows. Let's set those in place with some of the ColourPop brow wax. I have been enjoying this, but I do think it's a little bit tricky to use, and you really have to keep the spoolie cleaned almost every time you use it, because you wet the product and then it dries inside the spoolie and gets kind of chunky. So if you don't clean it, you'll get those little chunks of product that redeposit in your brows. You'll have little chunks of wax that are kind of dry and hard. I like to wet the brush instead of wetting the product itself. Just seems like it does a little bit better job. But I do think this has really good holding and staying power for a wax. And I do love the effect that it gives my brows. I mentioned in the video where I tried this out that I thought that it might be breaking me out, but I've continued to use it since that video and I haven't had any more issues. So I'm trying to figure out what gave me a little blemish inside my eyebrow. I haven't figured it out yet. If I do, I will keep you guys posted. But so far, as of right now, I do like the ColourPop styling wax. I think it can be a little bit tricky to use. It takes a little bit of time, but I do really like what it does for my brows and how it holds. Okay, that is it for brows. I think they look great. Let's add some cheek products. So we're gonna go in first with my Patrick Ta Duo. This is what I used last night. Been a big fan of this. I did mention this in my favorites video recently. I just kind of get a healthy amount on my ring finger, and then I'll just give it a little swipe kind of right here under my cheekbone. And then I kind of tap it. I try to tap more than pull, kind of up and in circular motions back. And I'll take a clean finger just to blend out that front edge if it gets in a little bit too far. I like to keep most of the cream on the outer half of my cheek, kind of using it more of a contour. This is just what's left on my finger. I'm running that up on my hairline a little bit. Other ring finger, just give it a good swipe right there. And I just start. Stuff is super creamy and easy to blend. I'm going to take just a tiny bit on the tip of my finger, and I did a tiny bit of contouring on my nose. Oh, nice. I don't even know that I need it. I mean, I don't know that I'm going for like a really skinny looking nose. It's just something extra to do. When you have a special occasion, you kind of want to do all the little extra things. Am I wrong? A little bit under my lip right here. I do like doing this a lot. I do think it makes my lips look nice and full. Now let's add some of the powder bronzer on top. For that, I'm going to take the powder brush that came in the Omnia set and just a tiny bit of this on top. This one I do take in just a little bit further than I did the cream. I almost use this like a blush, and then I'll add the blush just kind of on top of this. A little bit up on the forehead, down on my neck a little bit. Nice, let's move into blush. So I did use my Juicy Ping blushes the other night. I actually ended up mixing 3 different shades together. We'll just do that again. I mean, I would definitely probably, if I did this look again, just go in with this one right here. This is shade Raspberry. I've been really loving this shade. But I mixed a little bit of this raspberry shade. There's one swipe of that. I mixed that with the shade PK04, which is more of a apricot. I can't remember what these are called. I need to put a little like list somewhere that has the numbers that correlate with the fruit because I can never remember. And last I mixed a little bit of the shade VLO3. And I realize I've got some swatches left on my hand. Whoops. See if I can get that off really quick because I don't want that to end up on my cheeks. So we're going to just mix those together a little bit just with my finger. And then I'm going to tap these on just with my finger first, and then I'll go in with my sponge and kind of blend them out around the edges. Now this looks a little bright initially, but these sheer out quite a bit, so don't be worried if they go on a little bit bright. Then I just take the back edge of my sponge and kind of press them in, take a clean edge and kind of go around the edges just to make sure you don't have any blush where you don't want it. And back with what's left on my hand, I'm just going to tap a tiny bit more on the apples of my cheeks. Okay, let's add some highlighter. So I did use my Persona highlighter, which has been my favorite highlighter for the last month, as you will know if you watched my recent favorites video. That one I'm going to take on the Omnia highlighter brush. This is a really nice brush. I have used this one a couple of times already, and I'm going to start here on my cheekbones. I'm going to use quite a bit and go pretty heavy-handed with the highlight. Alright, and there we have the finished cheeks. Now moving in to lips. So all I did for my lips, I took a little bit of the LA Girl Ultimate Intense Wear Auto Liner. This one's in the shade Nonstop Nude. Just mostly line the center portion of the top and the bottom, as per usual. And then I'm going to take a little bit of my Juvia's Place lipstick. This one is in the shade Chic. And last but not least, I just took a little bit of my NYX Butter Gloss in the shade Creme Brulee. I lied. That was not last. That was second to last. Last but not least, I took a little bit of my Urban Decay All Nighter setting spray just to set everything in place. About 5 sprays of that, nice healthy amount. Take a little Sephora sample to dry that off. Who needs fans when you have so many ColourPop cards and Sephora samples laying around? And that, you guys, is it for my date night makeup. Hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Love this makeup look. I think it is so pretty. It's not necessarily like a summery makeup look, but it's a perfect date night makeup look. I love a good kind of smoky outer corner with a bright, sparkly inner lid. You guys probably know that seems to be a go-to for me. This one's just a little bit extra glitzy, I feel, though. And this palette, I am pretty impressed. Still ridiculously expensive, but I do think it is a good palette, and the packaging is incredible. So check it out if you're into that kind of thing, or be sure to check out this shade from ColourPop because it's a great alternative for that beautiful sparkle that you're seeing on my inner lid for a significant fraction of the price. Hopefully that was helpful for you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope that you guys are having a great start to your summer or winter if you live in the Southern Hemisphere. Thank you guys for watching today. Hope that you guys are doing well. Be sure to subscribe if you have not done that yet. But that is it for today. Thanks again, you guys. I will see you in my next one. Bye. Make sure that you subscribe before you are leaved. This reminds me of like an acrobatic coupe. Every time I wear these earrings, I think of the movie The Greatest Showman. Kind of random, I know. Thank you guys again. I will see you all in my next one. What? That was weird inflection in my voice.